To get back to Congressman Ruben Gallego, of course, responding to the president in Tulsa over the weekend, saying essentially that if you slow down the testing, you won't have as many people who test positive. So I want to read you a tweet that was sent out by Congressman Gallego yesterday, reading, quote, "Arizonans are waiting for hours and sometimes days for COVID-19 tests. The president can't answer clearly whether he asked for a slowdown in testing. If you are in the Arizona press, I hope you can ask him tomorrow." So here to talk about that and so much more is Congressman Gallego. Good morning. For the record, this morning, before the president boarded Air Force One, he was asked by a CBS reporter whether he was kidding, as Congresswoman Debbie Lesko had said he mentioned that in jest. Asked if he was kidding, he responded, "I don't kid." Are we seeing a call to slow down testing?
Well, it's the responsibility of the president to really clear that up. I hope that's not the case. You slow down testing doesn't mean you're slowing down the coronavirus. I think what the president's trying to do is deal with a PR problem when in fact he has to deal with a national emergency. So obviously, it concerns me. I know in my western part of my district in Maryville, there are hours and hours of lines of people trying to get tested. There are people that are missing work and still not being able to get tested. This is a national problem. This is a state problem. I hope the governor of Arizona, Doug Ducey, when he's with the president, will actually talk to him about the seriousness of what he's saying, and certainly hope it's not true.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, when we are able to test as many people as possible, that's when we get a clear vision of the virus itself, who it's affecting, where it's going, and that way we can better make moves that can possibly put us in a better area to protect all the public and Arizonans.
Yes, you can't contain something if you can't measure it, and that has to do with basically anything, whether it's pandemics, whether you're dealing with any other issue. So part of what we need to do is to stop the spread is to have massive amount of testing, and testing doesn't just necessarily give us a good view of what we're dealing with. It tells us how deep the hole is, where the hotspots are. It gives us some general ideas of how this is spreading. For example, this is largely spreading in multi-generational homes. So someone who's someone who we classify as working essential goes to work and then comes home, largely in big Hispanic families, to a big family, and unfortunately spreads it to their family members. That is the story of what we're seeing right now. But more testing would give us a better indication of what industries are helping to spread this virus, what communities are more in danger, and then how we can contain it and diminish it.
Let me ask you about today's rally. Is this bad timing considering Arizona is surging in cases?
I believe so, and I think all the health experts believe so. Having this many people together in one room, concentrated, while there is a pandemic going is only a recipe for disaster. You're only asking for it to be spread more. And at the same time, it's also, in my opinion, a distraction for the governor and for other political leaders that should be focusing on what we need to do, what the steps need to do to turn around this coronavirus increase. And lastly, I hope the president and the governor and any other politician that's attending these rallies will lead by example. We have a mask mandate here in Arizona. We've been trying to obviously institute that so we can start turning around this problem that we're seeing. But if we have leaders such as the president, such as the governor, not showing good examples, we're going to have more people basically skipping the mask mandate, and we're going to have longer times to deal with coronavirus.
I have to ask you really quickly, back in May, the president met with the Navajo Nation in a roundtable discussion, talked about how the administration was going to help them in the fight against COVID-19 through the CARES Act by releasing millions of dollars. As of last week, a federal judge had to step in and force the Treasury Secretary to release the $600+ million to help them in this fight. What was the holdup there?
There's just been a very concentrated effort within the administration to essentially make it more difficult for tribes to administer themselves. It's been an ongoing issue, not just with COVID-19, but largely the biggest issue is that a lot of the money that was allocated directly for tribes were redirected to these organizations called Alaskan Native corporations. And these Alaska Native corporations are legitimate corporations that make profits. They had a lot of access to other types of money for them to basically function and carry on with whatever duties they had. Excuse me. A last minute ruling, even though Congress said otherwise, said that they were eligible for that money. Excuse me. And in the end, that's how they got caught up in close to $5 billion was held up because of that. And this is luckily the ruling will change that, but it was a big delay.
All right, we're going to let you catch your breath there. We thank you very much for taking the time today. Please come back and join us. Would love to discuss this further.